Okay, so first of all, perhaps you're wondering why you want to do this. The reason is podcast hosting isn't cheap, and when you're a new podcaster, you want to find all the shortcuts you can find in ways of money without sacrificing quality. Now, there are places you can use for free or, free versions without being pro that are nice, but they're not as good as this in my opinion, because YouTube is not going to require you to cut any quality or cut any corners in terms of the length of your show, your podcast episodes, or in the quality of your podcast episodes. Places like Podomatic will sometimes make you cut the quality of your audio in order to fit the file size to upload it to Podomatic so that you can get it to places like Stitcher and iTunes and all of your other favorite podcast hosting outlets or podcast hubs. YouTube, actually, it's free. And if you monetize your videos, you could actually get paid to put your podcast on YouTube or your videos on YouTube. Whereas like SoundCloud, for a pro year-long membership for unlimited uploads is like $200. That is a little bit nuts to me. Or you could go the free route on SoundCloud, and I think you can upload like 3 episodes if your episodes are about an hour long before they'll start deleting episodes. So when you put up a new one, the 4th one, the oldest one, will get deleted. And when people are on iTunes or Stitcher looking for new podcasts, they're going to be looking for ones that are established. Sometimes people don't want to give a new podcast a try because, well, one, maybe they like it and then you stop making the podcast and then they're just kind of out. And also they're looking for quality. Their time is valuable and they don't want to give a guy that they don't think is worth their time. Exactly. So what I'm doing here is we're going to take a YouTube channel and get it put on iTunes, Stitcher, and all of those podcast hosting hubs that you listen to, that you use, and that your fans can get access to your YouTube channel. And also, if you're just a YouTuber and you have no interest in moving over to podcasting, this could be a real easy way to get a larger audience or to get your current audience to be able to listen more frequently because they can listen without having to have the YouTube app open. I love when I have podcasts or YouTube channels that I listen to where I don't have to have the app open. I can have my screen locked, but yet I'm still listening to it. So here we go. Every link that you're going to need is in the description box below. There's going to be about 5 of them. You need your YouTube long address. So that's the one that's .com/channel/ a whole bunch of letters. You're going to need podsync.net, feedburner.google.com, imgur.com, and also podcastconnect.apple.com. So let's get started by copying our long YouTube address and taking it over to podsync.net. Paste it into here, refresh that, and we're going to snag this link right there. Pick that up, take it over to feedburner.google.com, paste it into this box right there. Make sure you check I am a podcaster. Next, it'll bring up your information. I made this YouTube channel purely for this tutorial, so it brought up my feed title, YouTube to podcast tutorial, easy peasy. The feed address is also feedburner.com/YouTube to podcast tutorial. Next again, bring up some information. So before you get this started, you're going to want to make sure that you have a video already on your YouTube channel because it's going to need any rich media file to be able to pull anything onto iTunes. Now the next thing that we're going to need to do is go over to Imgur because we're going to want to put in our podcast image location. It has to be located somewhere on the web. For me, I think that it's just the easiest to upload it to Imgur. So we'll go to imgur.com, new post, and the image that we're going to be uploading needs to be at least 1400 by 1400 pixels, maximum 3000 by 3000 pixels. The one I am uploading right here is 1500 by 1500. Here we go. On the top right corner of your image, there will be a drop down. Click Get Share Links. Copy the BB code for forums and bring it back to Feedburner. Paste it in here, and you're going to want to get rid of the enclosures that have IMG. There we go. And then preview image to make sure that it worked. There it is. There's my image. It's real large. YouTube to podcast tutorial. We are set. Next, put in your podcast subtitle. I normally don't put in a podcast subtitle, but you can if you want to. We could do like our main title is Flying Brian, and then the podcast subtitle, does cool ass shit, or does fun stuff for all you kiddos. So let's just say tutorials, podcast summary. I made this channel to help get my point across while doing a tutorial. The keywords are actually really important. So I do a lot of mixed martial arts talk, talking about the UFC. So if I were to put some actual keywords in here, I would put MMA, UFC, fighting, stuff like that. But for here, we're putting tutorial, Brian, flying, show, etc. Boom. All right, we're good. Put in your email address if you want. That way, if people hate your podcast, they can tell you about it in an email. Or if they love it, you can let them email you and then beg them for money. Beg them to hit up your Patreon and stuff like that. Copyright message if you want. Podcast author, again, my name is Brian Jeffries. I go by Flying Brian, but whatever. And all of my stuff does contain explicit content, so I will just put yes, it does contain explicit content. I sometimes curse. Sorry about that, folks. All right, you can check out the stats here. Read this if you want. For right now, I'm going to just skip that. And we are set. Now, we're going to want to go up here to edit feed details. Copy this first part. I don't know why they won't let you copy it all together, but copy this first part. Take it over to podcastconnect.apple.com. Paste that in there. And then we'll come back and we'll get the rest of our feed address. Paste that. Make sure it lines up. Validate. So there we go. Make sure you don't have any red exclamation marks or anything saying bad. It looks like our status is green here. Everything looks nice. Prepared for submission. And then all we have to do is hit submit. Okay, so our podcast was successfully submitted for review. You successfully submitted your podcast for review. Apple will send you an email once the review process is complete. So I will step away. I will make sure that this podcast was actually successfully uploaded to iTunes podcast directory. Once it has been successful, I will be right back here and we'll finish out this tutorial. About 30 hours after I submitted the podcast for review to the iTunes directory, I got an email saying, "Dear podcast owner, your podcast located at blah, blah, blah has been approved. Rejoice." So we click back over here to podcastconnect.apple.com. It says it is active, but the true test is to come over to iTunes, go to the upper right-hand corner, and search for the podcast that you have submitted. I've already done that. Hit enter. It'll search in the podcast directory, and there we are, YouTube to podcast tutorial by me, Flying Brian Jeffries. Now, another test is to go over to the phone, the iPhone, and make sure we can get it in that podcast directory. Just want to be thorough, so let's check that. Open up the podcast app. Search for the name of the podcast that you've submitted. Boom, and it shows up. That is just a little short story that I read because, like I said, you have to put in a video on your channel before you can submit it to iTunes or any of the podcast directories because it needs a rich media file to be able to pull from. So this is the one that I added. The Plane Tree by Aesop. So there we go. We've successfully brought our YouTube channel and got it into iTunes podcast directory. We're not having to pay any hosting fees or anything like that. And in fact, we could possibly get paid by YouTube to be making our videos. If you want to see how to also put your podcast or your YouTube channel onto Stitcher, I have a follow-up video. I will put a link in the description box below that you can follow to that video. And I will also put something on the screen that you can click so you can get to that right away. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this really helped you out, and I hope that you have success with your podcasting career. Please give the video a thumbs up, and I'll see you on my next video. Namaste.